Alex Burrows with both goals in Game 7. The winner in overtime. And now these two bitter rivals shake hands at center as the Canucks prepare to take on Nashville in round 2.
Burrows had his fingerprints all over this hockey game. Opens the scoring. Misses a penalty shot. Is in the box for overtime. And when he gets out, he makes no mistake. Time to exhale, Vancouver.
Time to exhale, British Columbia. This province was ready to explode, and not in a good way, against its team if this improbable comeback by Chicago had been completed. But instead, the roof of this province has been blown off by Alex Burrows, who went 5 games in this series without scoring, but now has 3 in the last 2. And don't forget the stop by Roberto Luongo off Patrick Sharp with Burrows in the penalty box. Oh, how things can change in sport. And Alex Burrows is the hero here on a Tuesday night in Vancouver.
Coming into the playoffs, he had 1 game winner under his belt. He's going to need a bigger belt, Shorty.
The chant is Lou. As the Blackhawks complete the handshakes. And they'll head off. They went down as champions would. And the Canucks now salute this crowd at Rogers Arena. Chicago not the same team it was a year ago. But you can't deny the heart of the Blackhawks. Bested in Game 7 by Alex Burrows and Roberto Luongo. And these fans are going crazy here as the Canucks make their final exit. Our Rick Ball is standing by at the Vancouver bench. And he'll be joining us in just 1 second. As Henrik Sedin gets a big hug from Ben Brown of the Canucks Media Relations Department. And now Ryan Kessler joins Rick Ball. Take it away, Rick.
All right, thanks, guys. Well, Ryan, talk about emotions, not just the series, but that game. How crazy was it out there?
That was great. It's Game 7. It's exciting, and you know we deserved this one, and we fought hard, and you know Burr played one of the best games of his career.
And you kill off the penalty early in overtime. We'll get to that in a second. But you know the late goal, shorthanded, obviously let the air out of the balloon a little bit. What was the vibe in the room between the end of the regulation and overtime?
We believed. You know, one word, we knew that those guys didn't respect us. They didn't think we could win, and we wanted to come out and show them, and you know we did.
Big kill, obviously early. Burr's in the box. You kill it off. He comes out, makes amends with the goal.
Yeah, you know that was a huge kill. We killed it. Burr's been one of our best PKers all year, and we did it for him. And you know he pays us back by scoring a great goal.
Ryan, I know it's obviously an emotional win, but it's just one step along the way, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one step. Now we move on. We celebrate tonight. You know, we got over this hump, and now we're going on to the next round.
Give us a real quick thought on Nashville.
Yeah, they're a tight defensive team, and you know we gotta play our best hockey to win against them.
Thanks, Cass. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Rick, you can tell just by the tone of his voice, the pitch of it, how excited Ryan Kessler is. Sometimes not as much emotion in the interviews he gives. But there was a lot of emotion there as Roberto Luongo now tosses his goal stick to a lucky fan in the seats just inside the Vancouver blue line. And it's party central here at Rogers Arena, Dave. For a while there, you thought maybe it might not be like this. But it is now. And the hero of the night is Alex Burrows. And Alex Burrows, oh, I thought he was going to be with Rick. He's heading off the bench. Alex Burrows is going to do a TV interview. He joins Kevin Bieksa on the ice. They exchange hugs here.
Imagine the emotions for Alex Burrows.
All right, here's Rick Ball again.
Well, Kevin, what can you say about that game? Obviously the right finish, but the emotions must have taken a beating.
Yeah, wow. Still trying to calm down. What an amazing feeling. I know a game that we were ahead the whole time. played well. They battled back and got one with a couple minutes left, and we were resilient. We had a good feeling in the dressing room going into overtime, and it worked out.
You know, obviously, when you're up 3-0 and you find yourself in a 7th game and then you give up a shorthanded goal late, what are you thinking at that point? I mean, to come out like you did, kill a penalty early in overtime and get the winner. You talked about resiliency. That must have been a big part of your guys' victory tonight.
Yeah, it's one thing to say that you're a mentally tough team and not really go through any adversity and cruise through the season, but to go through what we did, up 3, losing 3 in a row, everybody betting against us, give up a late one, kill a big penalty. It was as resilient as you could get.
Kev, congratulations. Good luck against Nashville.
Thanks, Rick.
We got Roberto Luongo here, guys. Louis, congrats on the win. An emotional series, an emotional game tonight. Just what's going through your head right now?
A lot of things, but it's so awesome when you see a goal like that in overtime. You can't beat that stuff, man.
You go from that late goal, shorthanded, and then you have to kill off a penalty early in the OT period. Obviously, that was huge, and to have Burr step out of the box and get the winner must have been massive.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable. It was great that I was able to witness something similar in the Olympics, and really helped me out in my preparation for overtime. And came out. Obviously, I had to make one big save, and then Burr sealed it.
A similar save like you had to make in the Olympics, too. It was the other shoulder, I think, wasn't it? But it was a shoulder save.
Yeah, it was a shoulder save, but this was more of a backdoor play. It's just nice to be able to be rewarded.
I mentioned this to Kessler. It's obviously a great win over a team that's had your number the last 2 years, but it's just one step along the way. You still got a lot of work to do.
It's only the first round, so it's that's what the playoffs are all about. Like I said even before they started, there's a lot of ups and downs, but you got to stay with it. You got to stay composed, and obviously these guys didn't quit. They didn't want to let us go easily, and we found a way to win.
All right, Louis, one last question. You don't get to start in Game 6. Mentally, you come out in Game 7, you make some big saves, you give up just the one goal. How tough was it mentally to get ready after what happened the last game? You had said all the right things after the game, and yet your opportunity tonight, and we're a big part of the win. Yeah,
it wasn't easy. I'm going to be honest with you. Obviously, I'm a competitor. I wanted to play, and like I said, though, you put the team ahead of you, and I think the best thing that could have happened to me was going in late in the game, Game 6, and not having to think, just jump in there, made a few saves, and got back in the rhythm.
Thanks a lot, Louis. Congratulations. Good luck against Nashville.
Thank you.
All right, there he is. Roberto Luongo made that big save off Patrick Sharp, guys, in overtime. Huge penalty kill. And then Alex Burrows, what a game for him. He probably could have had a couple more. But they kill off the penalty with Burrows in the box, and he winds up being the hero in OT, and this place is still going crazy.
What a roller coaster ride for Alex Burrows. Baller, great job. A candid interview with Roberto Luongo there, fully admitting this was not easy for him as a competitor to have the disappointment of not starting Game 6, but what a game he played in Game number 7. And Alex Burrows with that roller coaster ride that featured a couple of goals, a missed penalty shot, a penalty in overtime. Oh, my goodness, he will be exhausted mentally at some point not too long after this game. We remind you again, the overtime was brought to you by the Boathouse, and we are happy to announce that you can continue catching Vancouver Canucks playoff hockey at the Boathouse Bar. Appy hour on every day from 3 to 6. Appy's just $2.99, and daily beer and cocktail specials for $4.99. And while we're talking about business, let's mention as well that the overtime winner by Alex Burrows produced another winner in Safeway Score and Win. Lorelli Smahov Smithers by swiping your free club card. You won a Pentax Optio i10 digital camera. Congratulations to Lorelli on the biggest goal of the year for the Canucks. And Dave, I would put to you the winning goal in the second biggest game in Vancouver Canucks history. I don't think you can ever surpass Game 7 in '94 against the Rangers until you win a Stanley Cup. But in my mind, this game, at this juncture in Canucks history, with the fallout that likely would have occurred had the Canucks lost a 3-0 lead to Chicago and bowed out in the opening round of the playoffs, Canucks win in overtime, in my mind, the second biggest game in their history.
And one of the most opportune moments for Alex Burrows, who battled some press in the first couple of games of this series. And, of course, when the Hawks evened things up, Burrows had a fantastic game, though, in Game 6, and follows it up with the first goal of this game, the last goal of this series. And I'll tell you what, it was an emotional roller coaster all the way through, but it's just the first round. It's going to continue, and the Canucks will continue to play as well.
The winning goal, I forgot to write it down. It came at 5:22 of overtime. Thank you, Blake Price, who is patiently waiting to commence the post-game festivities. It'll be a happy phone board. Blake is pleased about that. It could have been something quite different if not for the end result of this one. We don't know when the Canucks will start the playoffs against Nashville yet. We'll keep our eye on any dispatches from the NHL. May not find out tonight, may not find out until tomorrow. And may not find out until the Montreal Canadiens series wraps up, because television commitments and interests may have a say in when the Canucks start their second round. But we can tell you they'll be in it, and it will be against the Nashville Predators. This memorable, amazing Game 7 from Rogers Arena is complete. In overtime, the Vancouver Canucks win it 2-1. They win the best of 7, 4-3.
Good evening, hockey fans. Welcome back to Rogers Arena. This is the Quiznos post-game show. Blake Price here with you. Glad to have you aboard. Quiznos, always real ingredients, always perfectly toasted. Quiznos, love what you eat. It's over. It's finally over. The series just would not die. Canucks win it in overtime, and it didn't take long. The old rule of thumb, first 5, last 5, holding pretty much true. 5:22 to be exact. And I kind of had that feeling going in that this was going to be over early. And then when the Canucks take the penalty, regardless, they killed it off. They won it. Alex Burrows goes from possible hero to possible goat to possible hero, all in the span of a couple hours or so here at Rogers Arena. Again, Blake Price here with you. Player of the game voting's underway right now. Lots of candidates. I have a feeling you're going to hedge towards 14. It's all brought to you by your Toyota BC dealers. Get up to $4,000 cash back on select vehicles during red tag days. On now. Visit askanowner.ca for details. Be looking forward to your feedback. Live at teamradio.ca. Text us at 104040, the Wireless Wave in-game inbox, brought to you by Wireless Wave, your Bell experts. Visit them today at a mall near you. Wireless Wave. Love the phone. The phone boards are open right now. Look forward to your calls. Our last chat with John Shorthouse and Dave Tomlinson before we hear from the coaches at the podium. And I am honestly, guys, just as intrigued to hear from from Quenneville as I am from Alain Vigneault. This has been one heck of a series. I mean, you deserve the Blackhawks deserve some credit for this series.
Oh,
unbelievable.
I said it at the end, and, this doesn't play awfully well in this market sometimes because as much as these teams hate each other, the Canuck fans have developed a healthy hate for the Chicago organization from what's transpired the last couple of years and through 6 games leading into this one. But hats off to the Chicago Blackhawks. They're not the team they were a year ago, but their heart is as strong as ever, and their captain, Jonathan Toews, is a wonderful leader. And for them to not throw in the towel and, in fact, do the complete opposite and claw their way back into this series just with, immeasurable amounts of grit and heart, tip your hat to the Hawks. Enjoy the victory, but they showed a lot to me in this series, coming back to force this and come within a shot of winning the series in Game 7.
Oh, they pushed the Canucks right to the edge, right to that very edge. And I'll tell you, not for the weak of heart, that's for sure. And the Canucks, I can guarantee, as the playoffs roll on, they will mentally access this first-round series and the ups and downs and the way that it played out in tighter games that will be ahead of them as things go on. And so you have to learn something from your opponents, win, lose. And for this, I think the Canucks, they talked about wanting last game to be like Game 7, and I said they had to do more if they want to win a Game 7, and it was on display tonight.
Honestly, guys, did you get the feeling, even towards the end of regulation, still up 1-0, before that tying goal, did you almost get the feeling like it was inevitable, considering they were unable to score on how many grade A scoring chances tonight? Almost double digits, I'd hazard a guess. I mean, unbelievable. Squandered scoring opportunities for the Vancouver Canucks.
Can I be completely honest?
Yeah.
Because I didn't say it on the air, but I said off air to Mike Whittingham and to Dave here. I sniffed a late goal coming, and there was going to be overtime.
Yeah.
They go up on the power play.
They played wonderfully, but you just knew it was coming.
I'm sure it wasn't popular, but I mentioned how last year Nashville looked to have Chicago on the ropes, and Marian Hossa scored a shorthanded goal thanks to a cough up by Martin Erat at a wrong time, even in the offensive zone. And lo and behold, what happens? Jonathan Toews scores with 3 minutes to go, and I don't know. It just I've been saying the last couple of days. I grew up in Vancouver. I grew up following the Canucks. I knew heading into this series that no matter what happened, if they were going to win it, it wasn't going to be easy. They were going to test, as Dave said, for those of the faint of heart, they were going to test that, and this was going to be nerve-wracking. And I can't imagine a more nerve-wracking scenario than what we just witnessed in person here tonight.
The foot soldiers, the difference makers on both teams. I mean, half the reason why the Blackhawks got to Game 7 was the guys that aren't named Taves. Well, Taves played great, but he still didn't contribute goals-wise until tonight. Taves, Hossa, Kane, Sharp, they were good, but they weren't great. The reason that they were there was their foot soldiers, and you have to say the same for the Canucks, even those first 3 wins, and certainly tonight.
Well, before we go there, the great unknown is the reason there was a Game 7. That's Corey Crawford. I mean,
yeah, that's true, too.
Honestly, you think, oh, geez, Turco's not playing, and it's this Crawford guy. 34th consecutive start. Didn't look fatigued. He battles his heart in practice.
Man,
I made that comment early that the kid's going to burn his fuel if he battles that hard morning skates. But, let's be honest. He played real well, kept the Hawks in it when they needed the big saves. But the third and fourth lines for the Canucks, they did their work tonight.
Let's go down for the victorious head coach, Alain Vigneault, at the podium. Thanks, guys.
Coach, how does it feel to finally get by this team?
Well, obviously, it's a good feeling, but we didn't get into the playoffs just to get by one round. So, obviously, this was a big challenge. A great hockey team, Stanley Cup champions, pushed us to the limit. But at the end, we found a way to win.
What did you tell the team in the intermission after the third period?
Not much, except to focus on the way we play. And the thing I said, we're due to beat this team. And
you never question your team's character. I don't know if you can have more adversity as far as character and what they dealt with for the last 60 minutes plus there. Do you think that answers anybody, or do you really care?
Well, this group has played some real good hockey, and we played a real good Game 6. But we lost that one in overtime. I thought tonight both teams battled real hard. Both teams had great goaltending. And, we found a way to kill a penalty in the overtime and got a break on the winning goal there. So I think for us it's a matter of using this as a start point, and we need to continue to get better.
Alain, is this more than just a victory, 7-game series, the overtime? I mean, with everything that's gone on the last few years?
Obviously there were a lot of storylines in this series, of Chicago, and the fact that they had beaten us the last couple of years. But, you look at that team, that's a real good hockey team there. They got their 4 top Ds from last year are still there. They got their core group forwards who are some of the best in the league at playing both ways. So, it was a tough battle, and obviously we made it very interesting by taking a 3-0 lead in wins and, giving it back. And tonight, 1-0 with a couple of minutes left and giving it back. They were a resilient team, and we showed some ourselves and found a way to win.
Did you go in? Sorry, Matt. Did you go into the dressing room after regulation and say anything, or did you leave it to your leadership group to get them motivated?
Just a couple words, and that was guys knew what had to be done. So,
what was it about this team in the last 2 games where you just seemed to kind of get stronger as both games went?
Well, we played some real good hockey the first 3, and we got a little sidetracked there in Game 4 and 5, but got back on track in Game 6 and played real well and carried it into tonight and needed overtime to win.
Your thoughts on Roberto's play?
It was real good. He played a great game like we thought he could.
Does it feel like it's only been 1 round?
Yeah.
Now it's over. How nervous were you at the prospect of blowing it out 3?
No, I'll tell you the truth. I was excited about the game coming up. I knew the team was well prepared. I knew the guys would go out there and bust their gut, and that's what they did.
We were all looking for heroes in Game 7, as we do. Can you speak to your third line and the effort that they gave you?
They played a real, a lot of guys logged a lot of minutes, and obviously Max's line with Yannick and Chris Higgins played a real good game. That's what we expected. That's what we needed, and that's what we expect moving forward here.
So How important was this win to your franchise, given what had happened in the last week?
I have to ask somebody else. I mean, I'm real happy about tonight's game, and we're going to get ready for our next opponent in a couple hours here.
Roberto admitted that the best thing that could have happened to him was having to go in Game 6 and just play, and that he said that it's been a difficult few days. Did you at any point speak to him, just let him do his thing?
I've always had full confidence in Roberto. Prepares well, works hard. He's the guy. I had a gut feeling in Game 6 and thought we had to find a way to get some momentum back.
Did you sense the angst in the city all day at all since you guys have been back? Just the stress that was going on from people all over town?
Couldn't tell you. Just trying to focus on the game.
Well, what's the biggest thing your team learned in this series?
Oh, I'm not going to get into that right now. I mean, this is one series. We're going to enjoy it a little bit tonight and get right back to work tomorrow.
Should Sal be good for round 2?
Day to day. Thanks, guys.
Alain Vigneault done at the podium, regardless of if there's more questions. He wants to get into that locker room, I would guess, and celebrate with the rest of his team. Victorious in overtime. Game number 7, 2-1. The Canucks over the Blackhawks are off to the second round to face the Nashville Predators. Rick Ball joins us here on the Quiznos postgame show. Baller, a lot of debate already raging as to when, and people are anxious to know when this stuff keeps going. Yeah. There is apparently Sportsnet reports saying that it begins on Thursday. I'd be blown away by that.
Because Nashville's got to get here.
Nashville's got to get here.
Maybe they've been circling over Central America somewhere, exactly. Waiting for, or Central North America, waiting for this game to be over so they can decide where to land. Yeah, that's a long flight, too. It's a good 4.5, 5-hour flight from Nashville to Vancouver.
It's not fair to the Preds.
So who knows? But it doesn't make sense to push it at one with the next game because it depends on what happens in the Montreal-Boston series. CBC's going to want a Saturday night game Canadian team, so you're not going to start the next series for the Canucks on Saturday? Now you got 4 days off or 3.5 or whatever it is? I'm not sure about that.
My guess is if the Montreal Canadiens are in it, then Canucks start on Friday and the Habs start on Saturday. If the Habs lose tomorrow night, then the Canucks start on Saturday. Yeah. They're going to postpone it all the way till Saturday.
Well, speaking of the next series, and this is a question I posed to a couple of the guys when I was doing the interviews on the ice after the game, huge win. Yep. Obviously, place going nuts. You finally exercise the demon that is the Chicago Blackhawks. You do it in overtime in your home building after blowing a 3-0 series lead. Clearly, they were thrilled. The room was buzzing. The players were happy. But it's just one step.
Yep.
It's, at the end of the day, it's a first-round playoff victory. They've done that before. This team has much higher aspirations. So whenever the next series starts, it's going to be a quick turnaround. The Canucks got to start focusing on what they have to do moving forward because so far they've accomplished nothing more than winning the first round.
I think the Canucks are going to hope, and the Canucks fans are going to hope that this is akin, this series has been brought up already, or this season, the 89 Flames, who went to 7 with the Canucks, and then I think lost 1 or 2 games the rest of the way after that.
And I got a feeling, Blake, that Roberto Luongo could really settle into a groove here. That's a huge win for him psychologically. This team has had his number. He doesn't get the start in Game 6. He was extremely honest with me when I asked him about that.
Great answer, yeah.
And having to come back and play Game 7, he said it was pretty tough. Mentally.
Yep.
And yet, I know they gave up the late goal, but he makes a big save off Sharp. You thought it was over. I did, too, in overtime on the power play.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's as quick as Roberto Luongo has gotten post-to-post with his entire body. His toe has gotten across fast, but he got his entire body, and he needed to because even if he just gets his toe across, it's above the pad. That was into his chest. That was a great save.
Yeah, good save. And, he gave up just 1 goal. I know it came at an inopportune time, but you look at the games he played, he had those 2 stinkers in games 4 and 5, but to lay it entirely on at his feet is wrong and was a big factor in 3 of the 4 wins. When you think about it, he was great in Game 1, he was great in Game 3 in Chicago, and he was very good again tonight under trying circumstances. So if he can settle in and start playing, in the groove that he was in during the regular season, the Canucks have a chance to perhaps do something special here in these playoffs.
Yeah, basically the way you look at the series, a third of the time, he was a wall. If not half the time, he was wall. On the other half, he was eminently beatable. So, which Roberto Luongo advances here to the second round is going to be a big question on people's minds going into this next round.
And it was so good to see Burroughs get the winner after the game he had. And then, he takes the penalty early. It was a penalty. It was one of those on-the-edge calls. Yeah. And it had to be called because it set up a scoring chance for the Canucks. And it would have been disappointing. He gets the goal. He had a chance in the penalty shot. He had other opportunities. That whole line, him and Kessler and Mason Raymond. Mason Raymond played the best game he might have played all year tonight. And Kessler played his best game of the playoffs, and it couldn't have come at a better time.
Best line of the night was undoubtedly that line. And I would say that the third line, for the minutes they played, was probably rated as good as the Sedin line. Sedin line had some good shifts, but, man, I thought Chris Higgins might have played his best game as a Canuck tonight.
Yeah, and he was good. He was good a couple games ago as well. And, they move Lapierre up to center of that third line. The bottom two lines, very physical. They played the way they played in the first couple of games, and it was a big factor tonight.
Let's hear what Joe Quenneville has to say. What a fight to get to Game 7, get to overtime. His thoughts.
It seemed like that from the start of the year. It was a battle, and, you get to Game 7, you get to overtime, especially the way we did. It kind of reminded me of last year when we tied it up with the shorthander against Nashville, and we were fortunate then, but not tonight.
Can you talk about Crawford as far as his performance tonight?
It was one of the greatest goaltending performances in a clutch situation you're going to see. You got to commend him. The kid was great. Gave us a chance.
Sharp look on the power play is about all you can ask for, right?
Yeah, I mean but he looked like he anticipated that play pretty well there. It didn't look like when you look at the replay, it was he needed a special shot. He anticipated the play, but it was a good look and it was a good opportunity. But that was probably the only one we had on that PP.
How do you feel personally right now?
I feel not very good. I mean, I had a good feeling, going into that overtime, and we've been last couple of years we've been playing longer, and we've had some pretty amazing games and some great stretches, and I think we captured the emotion that was needed this year later in the series, and I think that's a lesson learning going forward.
Joel, in the end, was it even more difficult to repeat a title than you thought it might be?
Well, I know how tough the league is, how close it is, and how balanced it is, and the start we had it was relentless. I just think that we changed some things, and at the same time, I think if you would have won this game, I think we would have really got excited. Not that we weren't.
Do you like what you saw out of some of these younger guys, Frolik's, the Smiths, in these playoffs, and what do you think that bodes for you guys?
Yeah, I think Kruger's going to be a nice player too, as well. I think that when you find out organizationally all year long, we learn about some new players coming into the organization, and and later on in the year, some of these kids got some opportunities as well, and they got tested in a pretty amazing stage, and I thought they did well.
Looked like Kane, maybe tough night for him, fighting, getting the puck.
Yeah, I think offensively and defensively, I think that was the first time in the last little while we gave up that quantity of chances. And I think what we didn't do offensively led to us having to play a little bit more defense.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Head coach Joe Quenneville of the Chicago Blackhawks. I mean, it just has to be a kick in the gut to go this far. I mean, it seems like, what did we do for those 12 periods? Is it all for naught? Well, we get this far, and we still are in the same position we were when we were down 3-0. We're eliminated.
Yeah, you're out. But it's how they say in the regular season, a win in October is as important as a win in March. Well, a win in the first three games of the series is just as important as a win in the last three games of the series. And at the end of the day, the Canucks won the first three. The Hawks dug themselves a hole, played great to get out of it, but it wasn't enough. So
only the fourth time in NHL history that a series has gone down like this.
Yep.
3 wins, 3 losses, and a win for the Victorious team.
So, I was talking to John Weideman moments ago off the air, the play-by-play voice of the Hawks, and he made a good point. Had Chicago not made the playoffs, which they almost didn't, if not for Minnesota doing them a huge favor at the end of the season, the fans might have had a very different outlook on this team going forward into next year. The fact they made the playoffs, pushed the Canucks as far as they did, came back in the series the way they did, and if the Canucks happen to have a nice run the rest of the way, will probably do a lot of good in terms of giving Chicago Blackhawk fans reason for optimism next year. I mean, they win the Stanley Cup, and then they lose a huge part of their team because of the salary cap issues they had. And if they had not made the playoffs or even gone out in a sweep, it would have been a lot different situation in the offseason. But I think Chicago fans have good reason to be optimistic. And the biggest one is that guy they got in goal. That kid is unbelievable. Corey Crawford was their best player in this series, and he was the best player on either team tonight. He was spectacular, and the only reason the game went to overtime.
Let's do the 3 stars right now because he's going to figure prominently, brought to you by Rhino.ca. I'm surprised by the Hockey Night chose the stars, and I would have flip-flopped the goaltenders here. Corey Crawford is the 3rd star. of the hockey game, but he was spectacular.
He doesn't, Roberto gives up one. Well, we'll get to the next stars in a second. More a situation and circumstance. Corey Crawford was the best player on the ice.
I think so too. Luongo gets the second star.
He was very good tonight too.
And then Burrows. Burrows could have been the first star 25 minutes earlier if he wanted to. I'm sure he wanted to, but you know what I'm saying. Boy, was that guy around the puck tonight.
Well, and you know what, Blake? We said coming into Game 6, where's Alex Burrows being? And he had a big Game 6, 3 points, and he scores both goals in the winner tonight.
Ends up with 5 points in the series.
Stepping up at the right.
6 points.
When people were just about questioning what happened, is Alex Burrows going to do it in the playoffs? He did it in a big way.
Absolutely. Baller, great stuff. Thanks so much for doing this. And great stuff after the game. If you missed his post-game interviews from Ice Level, we'll replay those for you coming up later on here in the Quiznos post-game show, or perhaps during playoff game night with Jeff Patterson, which will be pushed up till about midnight tonight. And he'll take it to the wee hours, folks. We were anticipating with a loss he might not get to sleep before the sun rose. Still might not be the case as the Canucks finally exercise the demon known as the Chicago Blackhawks.
Now, more of the Quiznos playoff postgame show on the home of the Canucks.
Patrick Kane gets the puck, sends it across for Campoli. It went over his stick, but Ryan Johnson clears the zone. Handhuse intercepts, dumps the puck back in. Campoli has it, flips it. Burrow steals, cutting in, shoots, scores! They've slayed the dragon! Alex Burrows, 5:22 into overtime. Game 7 goes to Vancouver. And the Canucks are off to the second round. Burrows bags it. And the Canucks celebrate.
There it is, the game-winning call from John Shorthouse and Dave Tomlinson. 2-1, Alex Burrows. Bouncing puck, fluttering puck. I think he got away a little bit of a knuckler. I think it probably had something to do with it, getting past Corey Crawford. But good on Burrows. He was everywhere tonight. That line, spectacular. The line behind him was great. The line in front of him was pretty good, too. But the Sedins were not the difference makers tonight. That goes to Ryan Kessler and Alex Burrows in particular. Those two guys, simply magnificent. Blake Price here with you on the Quiznos post-game show. Quiznos, always real ingredients, always perfectly toasted. Quiznos, love what you eat. Joey Kenward with us up from the Canucks room. Joe, that was something else.
You know what a lot of people are doing right now?
Yeah, only theirs isn't a red
cola.
A red can of cola, yes.
But you know what? Cheers to the Canucks. Because that did they ever make it easy?
Cheers to the Canucks fans too, because I hesitate to think what a lot of them would have done. And I don't mean destruction-wise. I just mean depression-wise if that had been squandered, Joe.
Wow. I mean, just an emotional roller coaster ride for the home team and their fans. And, hats off as well to the Chicago Blackhawks not going down without a fight. And they had their opportunity in overtime, although I give top marks to the Canucks penalty killers, because did Chicago even get one single shot, if not their only single shot of the period on the power play? Defensively, Vancouver, to me, this was about as perfect a home ice performance Vancouver could have asked for in an official must-win situation. They had the physical start they wanted. They got the opening goal that they were hoping for. They had it right to the wire, it seemed, and they could have been able to seal the deal on so many chances, be it power plays or penalty shot or what have you, but they give up a shorthanded goal, really the only blemish on their night. And, I can't remember one single player that had as big a topsy-turvy night as Alex Burrows has had in this building in quite some time. Scores the opening goal, has a penalty shot, misses, takes a penalty in overtime. Luckily, his teammates bail him out, and then he nets the overtime winner, and that's the second time in Burrows' career that he has won a series for the Canucks in the first round with an overtime goal. Did it in 2008 in St. Louis on the Blues, and this one feels so much more sweeter in front of a sold-out crowd at Rogers Arena.
Yeah, just an absolute exhale after that goal goes in, and the roof on this place blew up. I leaned over to Rick Ball when the penalty shot was happening. I said, this place will explode if he scores. And then boom, nothing happens. And scoring chance after scoring chance there in that third period, Joe, and nothing happened. It wasn't going in for the Vancouver Canucks, and the air sucked right out of this joint.
Yep.
With the shorthanded goal. I mean, not only a tying goal, Joe, a shorthanded goal, even if you don't score in that power play, the best thing you can do is just puck management. They waste the time. They're down to a minute left in the hockey game.
And the pain threshold even compounded more so by the fact that it's Jonathan Toews who picks the perfect time to score his first goal in this series. And the fact that a lot of our listeners might not have heard when the broadcast was going on, that's the first time the Canucks have allowed a shorthanded goal against in this building all year. And just the third time total all season. So unfamiliar territory for the Canucks to allow something like that to happen, particularly when what's at stake is in their fingertips. But they found a way, and you know what? They didn't stray away at all from their plan of attack in overtime. They wound up out shooting Chicago 3-1. Obviously, the final shot was a turnover, a pretty good read by Burrows to pick off the clearing attempt by Chris Campoli, who I'm sure will be tossing and turning tonight, thinking about that one, trying to get it out of his own zone. But Alex Burrows was the man of the hour, and our own Karen Thompson braved her way into the throng of media that went to his stall to chat with him after a heroic and historic night here at Rogers Arena.
Oh, obviously it's a great finish, but just want to thank the guys for killing that penalty. Early in OT, it was a worst spot to be in the penalty box there, and just wish I was happy that Lou made a big save on Sharp there, getting a chance to get out there and just able to get a shot on net and luckily went in.
What does it feel like to finally get this done against them, the way this game went and what was series went?
Well, obviously we didn't make it easy on ourselves. We fought good for 58 minutes, and that tying goal, we just blew coverage a little bit and they got a bounce there, but we stuck with it. Still believe going into OT that we could get it done, and I think it feels even better getting it done this way.
These guys finally go, Alex, and getting over the hump, and get time to digest it, what it means beating Chicago finally?
Oh, not really, but I thought we played another solid game. I thought we had some great scoring chances again tonight, and Crawford made some big saves, and I think for us, Lou made some big saves too, and he kept us in, and glad to see our leader and Lou play that way for us.
Where are you going for sitting in the box?
Pardon me?
Where are you going for sitting in the box?
Well, I was going, hopefully we're going to get it killed, and ice was fresh, and they had one good shot, and it was on Sharp, and Lou read it all the way, and I thanked him for that after the game.
Alex, what was said in this room after the third?
But that we were a great spot, and this is where legends were born, and that's why we try to motivate ourselves by doing good thing, keep building, and we told ourselves that tonight was our night, and we weren't going to get outdone by them, and we found a way, and it feels good. But now we got to forget about this one and move on.
Yeah, that's where legends are born. All right, he's starting to write one of his own.
Drama, absolute drama for Alex Burrows. Now has 3 goals in the playoffs. It took him a little while to get going.
He's got a respectable point total now at the end of this series, thanks to these last couple of games.
Absolutely. And how smart does Alain Vigneault look now, having made the change to put Burrows back on a line with Ryan Kessler and Mason Raymond, for that matter?
Yeah.
Speed was their number one priority tonight, 5-on-5, dump and chase, get in on the forecheck. That's the best I've seen the Canucks collectively in a long time, drive wide and get chances to the crease. They were really unlucky not to have scored more than a single goal tonight through 60 minutes of play. Let's be honest. Anybody who watched this game, listened to this game, knows that they did deserve a whole lot better.
Canucks were good for a lot of goals tonight.
I think they executed their game plan to a T. They just were not rewarded for their efforts as much as they would have liked.
Let's hear from Roberto Luongo. It was not a flawless game for him in terms of form. Where are we going now? We're going to Henrik?
Yeah, we'll go to Henrik Sedin.
We'll get to Luongo in just a little bit.
He obviously chatted immediately with
We did, that's right.
Rick
We chatted with him after. We'll talk about Roberto in just a little bit. Sedin's faced a lot of criticism in this series, Joe. A lot of criticism. And I don't know that they dispelled a ton of it over these last couple of games. They were better than they were in the middle section of this series. But, again, if I'm ranking the lines, I'm still going second line, third line, Sedin line in terms of impact on this particular game.
I would agree.
Maybe a tie between the Sedins in the third, but
well, to me,
the third line played great. The third line played great too.
Yeah, I thought their best player, and he's not rewarded with the first star. Who else are you going to give it to than
Burrows? But yeah, Kessler was there, yeah.
And obviously the other goaltender, along with Roberto Luongo, they did their utmost to give their teams a chance to win. But Ryan Kessler, for me, was the best player consistently shift to shift in this game for Vancouver. And sometimes you're going to have, if Canucks fans haven't already noticed it, there's going to be many nights in playoff grinding out hockey where you cannot depend on 22 and 33 to get the job done every night. You have to have guys deeper down your roster to contribute to be guys that can score. And tonight they get Burrows to be the only guy that scores. But they certainly have their chances. But Henrik Sedin on a 2-on-0, 8 minutes into the third period, imagine if this game doesn't finish the way it does and Chicago comes out of this building as the winning team. What do you think is going through the captain's mind when instead of shooting, he dishes off a pass into the feet of Burrows? So maybe just from a Canucks fan's perspective, you're probably thinking, okay, let's just hope that's a one-off moving forward here, because if lesson wasn't learned right there, when you've got that chance, shoot.
Just watching the replay right now, Alex Burrows' puck was on its side, I think.
He ripped it.
Yeah, and I think he knew, I'm just going to rip it. I don't have any time left, and maybe I'll get the fluttering knuckleball, and that's exactly what he got.
Who had the slap shot breakaway winner last night for Tampa Bay?
Malone.
Ryan Malone had a ton of guts to slap one from the hash marks and beat Marc-Andre Fleury at the time, I think it was, on a rolling puck.
Yeah.
Well, very similar situation here with the OT hero tonight for the Canucks. And that's not an easy shot to get off of. And if you're the goaltender,
tough to read.
Really tough to read.
Yeah.
Really tough to read. So give credit where credit's due to Burrows. But the captain, we'll hear from him right now, obviously. Another roller coaster ride for him and his teammates. And it'll be interesting to hear what he has to say as the leader of this team after arguably their biggest victory in this building since the Canucks have started playing at Rogers Arena. You didn't make it easy on yourselves tonight, did you, to get the victory?
No, I mean, they had no business being in the series. I mean, we outplayed them badly for 5 games. We had two shitty games, but that's the way it is. And we should have won the last game in Chicago. That's how we felt. And we had to take it to overtime again tonight. That's a tough part, but this is a resilient group, and this is not the team of the past years. It's a new year for us, and we stuck with it.
Go back to the beginning of the game. It just seemed like the game plan you had was to hit and to get the opening goal, and you were able to do that in the first period.
Yeah, it's been our plan the whole series. It's we lost it for 2 games. That's when they got us badly. Other than that, we played 5 really solid games, and I mean, like I said, we're a confident group in here. We never doubted, even though a lot of guys around the team doubted. So it's been a tough series for us, but we made it hard on ourselves.
Alex Burrows has probably never had a bigger emotional roller coaster single game in his life. But I know from a guy that's been a linemate of his for so long, that's a guy that deserves to finish on a good note in a game like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we like the last game in Chicago, we should have finished it off earlier. It's we made it hard on ourselves, even though we played a really good game. I mean, we didn't make any mistakes. We made the plays we needed to. This is how you need to win sometimes, and makes it even sweeter.
As the guy that wears the C on the jersey in this locker room, did you need to say anything to the team going into the overtime session, or was it just basically, well, fellas, whoever's going to be the hero is going to be the hero?
Yeah, I mean, we have said that we get to stick with our game plan. I mean, they look tired out there, and they look tired for a lot of games because we've been rolling our lines, and we've been playing our game plan, getting pucks deep, and they've been leaning over the sticks a lot of times. So we knew if we can keep going for another period, we're going to make mistakes.
There he is, Henrik Sedin, pretty adamant off the top there. This is the better team in this series. I see what he's saying. I mean, the Hawks played pretty well in game number 1, remember. They did. Just Luongo was the best player on the ice. He was the first star for a reason. You don't get first star as a goaltender unless you're being tested. Chicago played pretty well. They just didn't get it past Roberto Luongo. Chicago played pretty well in 3 or 4 games at the very least. A couple of these games were were pretty well matched.
Yeah, I agree with you. And maybe that's just.
I agree to a certain extent with what Henrik said, that they played well enough in 5 of those games too. But in some of those games, both teams played well enough.
Yeah.
And so you don't necessarily deserve to win in those ones. But it was a tight series. This is as appropriate an ending to this series. And again, for those that missed it, this is the 4th time in history, and we're going pre-expansion and everything, back to original 6 days, only the 4th time in history that a playoff series, a best of 7, has gone down like this. 3 wins, then 3 losses, and a win for the victorious team. 4 times in history now.
Now, for the Canucks and their fans, what the Canucks did tonight was something they haven't done since their first ever run to the Stanley Cup Finals. And that is beating the Chicago Blackhawks in a playoff game in overtime. You've got to go all the way back, and by an hour's time we'll officially hit the exact anniversary of April 27th, 1982, when Jim Nill notched a double overtime winner at the Chicago Stadium in the Canucks' first ever overtime victory in the Stanley Cup playoffs to defeat the Hawks in the Windy City. Since then, Chicago had won the previous 4 playoff games. 5, excuse me. Vancouver was 1-5 in overtime history against the Hawks going into tonight's game. So they get that monkey off their back. They get that, and again, I don't even want to imagine what all the talking points and things that would be happening if Vancouver had been on the losing end tonight, especially with the way they played, because they didn't want to add their name to that very, very short list of teams that blew a 3-zip lead in any playoff series and find themselves on the outside looking in come the start of the next round.
When we come back, Dan Hamhuis, BC boy, born and raised, wins a playoff series with the Vancouver Canucks. His first ever playoff series win. It happens to be facing off now against the Nashville Predators, his former team.
Goes to the top of the circle, again to the goal line to Taves. Taves centers the puck. Sharp, stopped by Luongo, sliding to his right. Patrick Sharp had a glorious chance, and Luongo stopped it to keep the game going.
That's a huge save by Luongo. Got big, got across, and denied Sharp.
That saved the game. It really did. That was undeniably the save of the game, brought to you by Mercedes-Benz until April 30th. Get your first 3 months payments waived on select Mercedes-Benz vehicles. Set up a test drive today at your local Mercedes-Benz Vancouver area retail location. Call 604-331-BENZ. Here's the good news. Canucks versus the Predators in the second round. How does that strike you? Here's the thing. Joey Ketter with myself, Blake Price here, live at Rogers Arena. 2-1, the Canucks beat the Blackhawks in overtime. Here's the good news. San Jose and Detroit get to beat each other up.
Absolutely. Now, not to take the next round
not
lightly.
to overlook the Preds in any way, shape, or form after what the 8th seed just gave the Vancouver Canucks.
Absolutely.
But if you're going to look down the road, and I think people like to, that's what's happening.
A Stanley Cup contender will officially be out of the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It takes one serious threat for the Cup out of the way in the second round.
Yeah.
As much as the Preds might be a plucky group and they might ultimately beat the Vancouver Canucks, they aren't regarded as a Stanley Cup favorite right now going into the playoffs. So, interesting. It means we're going on live on location, by the way. Back to Nashville. Canucks playoff coverage, both home and away. Sponsored by River Rock Casino Resort, the official casino resort of the Vancouver Canucks. Catch all playoff games in Lulu's Lounge, located in River Rock Casino Resort. We're going to Music City.
Have you been there before?
Never. Country music Vegas, I'm told. So we'll see what happens.
They don't call their main strip of bars Honky Tonk Alley for nothing.
I still don't know what that means, Joe.
Well, you know what, Blake? You're going to find out real soon.
Apparently I will. Let's get a quick update on what happened around the National Hockey League playoffs because we need to know what's going on tomorrow on the schedule. Back-to-back games. Boston and Montreal, back-to-back nights. They're going to play again. Game number 7 there. And, of course, Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh as well.
And really, does any of those 4 teams have momentum going into tomorrow night? I don't think you can say that because Montreal found a way to get it done on home ice. A real spark plug for the Bruins left the game early, and who knows if Milan Lucic will be available for Game 7 in a building where that team was not very good to start this series, falling down 2-0 to the Habs. That's got the makings of a real entertaining matchup, as does Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh, because there have been some very lopsided scores in that series. And the way the likes of Steve Stamkos, Vinny Lecavalier, and Marty St. Louis have found their stride here when they were looking into the eye of the abyss. Boy, have they come out to play. And the Pittsburgh Penguins, the way things have been going for them, you've got to think that they are going to have an absolute gem of a goaltending performance from Marc-Andre Fleury if they want to be able to keep the Bolts at bay. That is appointment television tomorrow night out on the East Coast.
Let us hear from Dan Hamhuis. This is an interesting story going into the Preds, of course, the place where he resided for the better part of his career before becoming a Vancouver Canuck, all of his career. And yet now he's with the hometown Vancouver Canucks, as close as it's going to be coming from where he does.
Smithers.
And now he's up against the old club. I mean, there's a sense of pride and then probably a little bit of anticipation now. So what lies ahead for Dan Hamhuis?
He had a busy night at the office tonight. He had the second highest time on ice totals out of anybody in this, third in this hockey game, second in Vancouver. Officially, 27 minutes flat of ice time. 24 minutes of that was even strength hockey. Had a good physical presence to his game, had 3 hits. More importantly, he was very, very good in his own end of the rink. 2 takeaways and 5 blocked shots. 5 blocked shots for Dan Hamhuis, the game leader in that category, and a guy that played his first ever Game 7 in the Stanley Cup playoffs in his NHL career. He, like his former team, is going on to the second round for the first time ever, and had a chance to catch up with Dan Hamhuis one-on-one after this memorable overtime finish between the Canucks and Blackhawks.
Well, I know that it's every player's hockey dream growing up to play in a Game 7, and I know for a BC boy like yourself, I'm sure you one day were thinking what it would be like to be in a Game 7 for the Vancouver Canucks. Did it live up to the hype tonight?
It was amazing. So much pressure and stress throughout the last few days trying to close this out. We had a chance in overtime in Game 6, and then to go to overtime Game 7 at home. That's road hockey right there. Growing up, and to come out on top was I don't even know if it was a mix of excitement and relief.
You had a ton of ups and downs in this game, but you didn't stray away, it seemed, from the game plan, which was to play them physical, keep them as much in their own end of the rink as possible, and get good goaltending when you needed it from Roberto Luongo. Was that about as complete an effort you could have in such a big game scenario?
Yeah, we learned all year that when we stick to our game plan, game pucks deep, we're hard to play against, and we carry the play. And we learned our lesson through this series that we stopped doing that in games 4 and 5, got back to it in game 6 and 7, and paid off.
How excited are you personally to play the Nashville Predators in round number 2?
Yeah, it'll be different. I haven't actually played there yet. I missed both games in Nashville with concussions, so that'll be different going back there and playing on that ice. But it's still a lot of good friends on that team, but that's going to be put aside here for a couple weeks.
You know more than anybody in this organization and maybe in this city how hyped up the hockey community is in Nashville going forward. How tough a test will this be for your club to be able to progress on to the Western Conference Finals?
Well, they're a really good team, and they've been playing very well. They've got, as you mentioned, great fans down there. I think they're very underrated, and they're very loud in their building, and it's going to be a tough team to play against.
There he is, Dan Hamhuis of the Vancouver Canucks. He might not even remember the last 2 trips to Nashville. He was there for the second one.
Correct, because he had been.
Yeah, wouldn't have been there for the first one.
He didn't play, but I think was he not even in the building? I think he might have been in the building because I think he was concussed earlier on in the road trip.
Yeah.
But yeah, he'll be jacked up to.
He actually went there concussed to sell his house that second time around.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, was it when he was just concussed with the game or 2 before that, and so he did actually make the trip to Nashville with the team, but as I said, might have been a little foggy of a trip. We'll remember this one a lot more as the Canucks get set to take on the Nashville Predators. God knows when. Every time we're going to a break. We're debating when this series is going to start. The one wrench in the plan is Monday, both the Canadian election and Charlie Sheen's violent torpedo of truth here at Rogers Arena.
And for those of our listeners that think you're pulling a fast one, that's no joke.
No, Charlie Sheen's got this arena booked on Monday, so there will not be Canucks hockey here on Monday. There's no question about it.
More importantly, I don't know if Hockey Night in Canada or the National Hockey League would be able to trump a Canadian election to be on CBC television.
Well,
and that
the network wouldn't like it, but the people wouldn't vote. They'd watch hockey. We know what Canadians really hospital beds and education or hockey. Hockey, yeah.
Well, how about today? The provincial government with their they shut off their telephone call-in segment for discussing the debate on the HST. Why? Game 7 tonight. Politicians take off a day for hockey.
Everybody wants to watch hockey. There's
Exactly.
no question about it. Let's get this guy, Jeff Patterson, up from the Hawks room. And Jeff, again, we gave them lots of credit right off the hop of the postgame show because they do deserve it. The Hawks were something else in this series.
Yeah, I take my hat off to both teams for this night of entertainment and this series of entertainment. In our lifetime, we probably won't see anything with as many plot twists and turns as these 7 games presented, Blake. But then again, this is only the first round of what the Vancouver Canucks are hoping is a lengthy run here this spring. So who knows what lies ahead. To their credit, the Chicago Blackhawks Class Act Stanley Cup champs didn't go quietly.
No.
And, for the most part, guys in that locker room, stand-up guys as well after the hockey game. Jonathan Toews, as he's been throughout the series, the first 2 games, after losses in this building, there to face the media barrage in one of the biggest scrums that I have ever been a part of.
Really,
managed to get some position. I was proud of myself.
Good
you got to
for
have your
you.
game face on.
Yeah,
You just get swallowed up in these things. But you're going to hear from Jonathan Toews. There was an overriding sentiment from all the Chicago Blackhawk players. Corey Crawford seemed a little bit in shock. Again, rookie, to think what he has been through and the grinder that he was put through and the performance that he served up here tonight. I'll get a chance to play his post-game remarks as we move along here. But the overriding sentiment was tonight was really a microcosm of their season. And when you look back, they missed out on the final day of the regular season. They missed a chance to punch their ticket to the playoffs. They had to leave it in the hands of somebody else and get some hope and some help. And they did. They fell behind 3-0 in this series. They seemed like they were out of it then and rallied. And they were down 1-0 with under 2 minutes to go in this hockey game. And they rallied again. But the common theme there is, they're fighting uphill.
Yep, the whole time.
All the way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just such a difficult way to play this game. And so,
there's a reason why 6 times teams have put themselves into this situation, fighting back to a Game 7, but only half of them have completed the job. It's hard to fight and claw
right,
all the way.
So they dodged 2 bullets, the one on the final day of the regular season and getting down 3-0 and coming all the way back. But it was just too tough a hill to climb. And then they were in this hockey game, and they had a power play in overtime. I mean, the chances were there, and that wasn't lost on any of these players. Brian Campbell, perhaps the most emotional, outwardly at least. I mean, he used the word sucked when he was asked about his immediate feeling after the hockey game. David Bolin wasn't made available to the media. Would have liked to have talked to him. Just what an interesting series he had. Chris Campoli, at least at the time that I was in the locker room, no sign of him. And you can understand that's a tough turnover on his part. Thought he made a decent play there, and Alex Burrows made a better one to keep that puck in line and ultimately salt this thing away. But Jonathan Toews.
You want to say all the positive things and the great things that we did as a team, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you say. It's still so disappointing. We battled so hard for each other, and there wasn't a doubt in my mind, in any of our minds, that the way we played the last 3 games, what we showed each other, what we showed everyone else out there, there wasn't a doubt that we were going to win this game, and that's what it comes down to. It's meant to be when it happens that way. So it's a tough one. We get a power play, we get a couple chances there. You're just kicking yourself for the opportunities you could have taken advantage of, and especially when it comes down to one shot like that. It's 7 games. Who knows how far they're going to go or how far we could have gone, depending if we would have won this game. And it's tough to swallow right now.
Personally for you finally score a goal that appears to rip their hearts out at the end of regulation, and then they come back.
I mean, on a personal level, there's nothing more frustrating in a series like that when you feel you're playing well and you're doing everything you possibly can to get around the net, and obviously that's how we contribute to this team, is scoring goals and making plays offensively. Just kept telling myself that there was going to be a big one coming, and got that one at the end to give ourselves a chance in the overtime period. Wanted that one more. That's all we needed, and just coming up, just a little bit short. It's pretty shocking and disappointing, I guess.
But John, as tough as it is, you take some pride in how you kept pushing, this team kept pushing, you didn't quit, you got to a 7th game, to overtime, even though you fall short.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of things we can be proud of and we can be, happy about. But again, to this team, this has to be a learning experience. People wanted to talk about what we were saying early on in this series, from game 3 and 4 up until now, that, we were saying that that's a beatable team, and, that they have holes. I mean, obviously it's a great team. You give them credit for what they did tonight and for how they hung in there. But, we know what we have in this locker room, and we'll learn from this experience from putting ourselves down 3 games to none. It's a tough thing to do, to come back and to be 1 goal away. It's disappointing, but at the same time, we can learn from it.
How impressed were you with your goalie tonight?
Sorry?
How impressed
What?
with your goalie tonight?
He was amazing. Everyone talks about Luongo and how good he is and how much pressure there is on him, but everyone probably underestimates how much pressure there is on a young kid like Corey Crawford. How he deals with it, I don't know. He was absolutely unbelievable throughout the whole series, and especially tonight, he gave us a chance to win, and you can't ask for anything more from a guy like that.
Just a stand-up guy. I mean, and again, 22 years of age. You're delighted that he's a Canadian, because we'll have years to cheer for this guy in international competition. It'd be interesting to see if he answers the call of his country. These teams that get knocked out in the first round, I was wondering if a few Canuck players
He's played a lot of hockey in the last.
No question. You could understand if he said thanks but no thanks, although this guy has forged a legacy now as one of the great Canadian players to represent the country. So we'll see about that. I'm sure that's not first and foremost on his mind, but he kind of talked a little bit about the comments that he made when they were down 3-0, and then tipped his hat at least to the Vancouver Canucks. And again, nothing but class from Jonathan Toews, and what a classy coming out party for Corey Crawford between the pipes. I saw somebody suggest earlier that keep his name in mind for 2014. I mean, here's a guy that came in as a playoff rookie, and now people are already trying to paint him into the 2014 Canadian lineup. But earlier this season, remember when Montreal came through and there was a big discussion about Luongo going against Carey Price, and where were the
other young Canadian goalies?
Found one.
Yeah, could be.
Found one, at least in the short term. But he was sensational, and probably better than that. I should come up with a better description than that. But Corey Crawford did everything. He seemed a little bit shell-shocked here. Maybe it was just decompressing after 7 crazy games of hockey, but his answer's fairly short and not frustrated. I really just think that his mind had been blown by what he had gone through here, and still trying to process the fact that he couldn't come up with that one save that he needed when he needed it the most. But here is the Hawks' young goaltender, who was nothing short of sensational.
A lot of momentum going into overtime, and made a couple chances in overtime too, and he made some big stops, and they get a lucky bounce and come streaking into the slot, so it's tough to lose. It was a good series. I don't think anyone would have thought we would have pushed it all the way to Game 7 in overtime. But I still think we could have maybe won that one, and it's tough to swallow right now.
On that goal, that puck was rolling. Was it hard to read where his shot was going?
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know if it went off our guy's stick but I didn't get a clear read off of it, and
it must feel great to come up with a game like that as a rookie NHLer in a Game 7 situation for you.
It would have felt great if we would have won. It felt good, but I was kind of had a feeling we would maybe get one eventually, but it's tough to lose that in overtime.
Would you describe what happened on that goal in OT?
It's just kind of a bouncing puck, and the guy grabbed it and just had full speed and came into the slot and teed one up. I don't think he got his best shot off. Kind of a change up, or I'm not sure if it is a guy's sticker or something, but it's kind of a weird one.
I know it's tough now, but you got to be proud of your performance throughout this series.
It's hard to say. You always want to win, and when you don't win, you're always looking for something, for a reason why, and I don't know. It's tough to swallow right now.
Do you take pride in the fact that you guys never quit?
Yeah, that shows a lot of character, and this is a really good team, a lot of skill, and we battled hard, and we gave them a good fight, and we were really close to winning that one, and I don't know what else to say.
Quite a learning experience, though, isn't it?
Definitely. Any experience that you get right now is definitely help.
What about the penalty shot? I mean, in a must-save situation, just walk us through that.
Well, they're all must-save situations, but I don't know. I kind of felt that he's more of a shooter, and I stayed ready for a quick shot like that because I felt he was going to do that before Deke.
All right, so all the talk about heavily scouted opponents and guys having books on other guys, he thinks Alex Burrows is a shooter.
Yeah, not so much. First thing I tweeted after that was, I can't believe he didn't use his move. And considering how far he came out, I thought, you know what, that move would have worked. I'm guessing at this point, but I would have thought the move would have worked based on where he was positioned. But
Corey Crawford was terrific in the series, but you know what, and I mean, we know the history of Roberto Luongo, and we hear it on a daily basis on the open phones, and the city is divided about Roberto Luongo. But in this building, in big hockey games, for the most part, his record now, both Game 7s, Dallas 4 years ago, and here tonight he's given up one goal. Can't do a whole lot better as a goaltender than that. He's won both of those, and of course, the Olympic game as well. So it'll be interesting to see with, the shackles off this guy now and the shackles off this hockey team. We talked about the Hawks getting new leases on life throughout this series. The Vancouver Canucks have the newest lease on life of all, and who knows what they might be like now freed up to take on the Nashville Predators, who won't allow them much freedom.
No,
the way that they play.
New shackles. Honestly, and here's the irony.
Shackle-free for a couple of days.
The Canucks go from their playoff bugaboo team to kind of the regular season bugaboo team. The Preds give the Canucks all sorts of fits. This is not going to be an easy series going forward.
Well, playoff success isn't supposed to be easy, so we'll see. I'm really curious to see what this team learned. I mean, they have been presented the get-out-of-jail-free card, and they earned it tonight, but they've got it in their possession. They get out of jail now, and we'll see what they can do against the Nashville Predators.
Post-game shows aren't meant to be easy, but these ones were destined to be a lot easier than the ones that could have been.
Night is young.
Oh,